Previously, the three queens conquered the first two sacred trials, yet the final ritual would bear the truth no shadow could hide. Which queen carries the secret that stilled the king's breath?
Night fell heavy over Umwalo like a thick black cloth. The moon hid behind drifting clouds, as though refusing to witness what was about to unfold. Even the night crickets sang more softly, their usual chatter swallowed by apprehension. The king had been buried inside his own chamber, a tradition reserved only for rulers whose deaths were surrounded by mystery. The room was sealed with clay, herbs, and palm fronds, leaving only a narrow entrance for the wives during the ritual. A roaring torch flickered outside as the chief priest made the final preparations. Tonight begins the last and most dangerous ritual, he announced. 3 nights in the king's chamber. No light, no food, no comfort. The villagers murmured. Those whose hearts are pure will survive the silence. Those who carry guilt will not escape the truth. The wives were called forward. Queen Nkemdilim entered first. Her face was solemn, but her spirit steady. She bowed briefly at the doorway, whispered a quiet prayer, and stepped inside. The clay door was sealed behind her. The second wife, Queen Ozioma, followed. Her legs trembled, but she held her courage tightly. She entered, clutching her wrapper as though it were a shield. The door was sealed again. Then came Queen Adana. She walked slowly, her anklets jingling softly. Her eyes flickered with nervousness she tried desperately to hide. She had trusted the native doctor's charms so far, but this ritual, this darkness, this closeness to the man she killed, even her charms seemed to tremble against her skin. She paused at the entrance as though the shadows were calling her name. "Enter!" Mirioka commanded. She swallowed hard and stepped into the darkness. The door sealed shut. Inside the burial chamber. The room was cold, unnaturally cold, the kind that crawled beneath the skin and settled in the bones. The 3 wives could barely see one another. The air smelt of clay, incense, and freshly turned earth. Somewhere in the center of the room lay the king's body, wrapped in traditional burial cloth and surrounded by sacred collar knots, white chalk, and the staff of authority. They sat apart in silence. Minutes passed. Hours dragged on. Time became a slow drumbeat. At some point, a faint sound echoed through the chamber. Tap, 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 like someone knocking gently on wood from beneath the ground. Queen Ozioma stiffened. Queen Nkemdilim whispered a prayer. But Queen Adana's eyes widened. She knew that sound. Her nightmares had carried it for days. Tap, tap, tap. Then a whisper silhouetted through the darkness, low and breathless. "Why did you kill me?" Queen Adana jolted violently. "Who said that?" she screamed. The other wives gasped. No one spoke. Nkemdilim whispered shakily, "Hold your spirit together." But Adana was sweating, trembling, clutching her chest. Her heart was racing. The time beads around her waist vibrated lightly, as though warning her. Or perhaps it was her own guilt shaking the very earth beneath her. Hours passed before dawn crept into the sky. When the chamber was opened at sunrise, the villagers gasped. Queen Ozioma stood tall, though tired. Queen Nkemdilim stumbled out but remained conscious. But Queen Adana burst through the doorway in a frenzy, screaming, crying, clutching her beads. "There was a voice! Someone talked to me! Someone called my name!" she cried. The villagers whispered among themselves. "Is guilt chasing her? Maybe her spirit is cracking." The chief priest watched her with eyes sharp as a blade. The wives were escorted to a resting hut for the day. But the chief priest stayed behind, examining the burial chamber, touching the earth, whispering to the spirits. He sensed something unnatural, not from the king, but from the third wife.
When evening came again, the crowd gathered even larger than before. Fear now lived in everyone's eyes. The wives were called. Queen Nkemdilim walked into the chamber, exhausted but ready. Queen Ozioma followed, whispering prayers. But Queen Adana hesitated again. Her hands trembled uncontrollably. Her charm beads felt hot, burning into her waist. The native doctor had sworn they would protect her. But charms could not silence a guilty conscience. They had limits, and the burial chamber was a place where truth lived like a spirit with eyes. When the wives entered and the chamber was sealed again, the darkness swallowed them whole. Almost immediately, Queen Adana heard it. Tap, tap, tap. Then, "Your sin has woken the dead." She screamed, grabbing her head. "No, no, leave me alone." The other wives huddled together, terrified but silent. The whisper came again, this time closer, colder. "You poisoned me, didn't you?" Adana wailed, shaking violently, her voice cracking like dried wood. "Stop it, stop it!" Her cries echoed into the early morning. Dawn of the third night. By the next morning, everyone knew something was wrong with Queen Adana. Even the bravest warriors whispered in fear. The chief priest gathered the elders. He said, "The spirits are choking her. Tonight, the truth will either free her or destroy her." The third and final night had come. All of Umualo waited. They waited for dawn. They waited for justice. They waited for truth. And before the sun rose again, Queen Adana would break.
The sky that evening was darker than any night Umualo had ever known. Clouds gathered like mourning spirits. The moon refused to rise. Even the wind moved quietly, as though it feared disturbing what the gods were about to reveal. Villagers filled every available space around the palace courtyard. They stood shoulder to shoulder, gripping wrappers, staffs, and their own beating hearts. No one wanted to miss the final night. The night the truth would either rise like dawn or sink someone into eternal shame. The chief priest, Mirioka, stood tall, his staff glowing faintly in the torchlights. "Tonight," he announced, "the ancestors demand the truth. No lie can hide in the presence of the dead." Queen Nkemdilim walked forward first. She had dark circles under her eyes, but her steps remained steady. Queen Ozioma followed, trembling but resolute. Then came Queen Adana. She looked like a woman losing her mind. Her eyes were wide, darting at shadows. Her beads clinked against her waist like frightened teeth. She kept whispering a single sentence under her breath. "No, Kemi, Biko, forgive me, forgive me." But her charms at her waist no longer glowed. They no longer hummed. They no longer protected her. They hung lifeless, like dead snakes. The burial chamber door opened. Clay walls, cold air, silence that could freeze the soul. "Enter," said the chief priest. The three wives stepped inside. The door sealed with a heavy thud. Inside the chamber, the final night. It was darker than the previous nights.
thicker, heavier. The air held a presence. Even Queen Nchemdilem and Queen Oziama felt it. They sat on the cold floor whispering prayers. But Queen Adana paced like a trapped animal. Minutes passed. Hours crawled. The darkness thickened. Then it began. Tap, tap, tap. This time the knocking was louder, closer, right beneath them. Queen Oziama covered her ears. Queen Nkemdilim began to shake, but Queen Adana collapsed to her knees. She knew the sound. The memory haunted her even in sleep. The last sound King Obieze made before he died. His hand tapping the table. Trying to call for help. Trying to call her. She screamed, "Stop it! Leave me alone! I'm not afraid of you!" But the whisper came again, curling through the chamber like smoke. "Why did you poison me, Adana?" She gasped, shaking violently. No, I didn't. I... The whisper turned into a voice that echoed around the walls, dense, deep, unmistakably King Obize's. "Why did you kill me?" Queen Adana screamed so loudly the other wives grabbed each other in terror. The chamber trembled. The clear walls moaned. The ground shifted. The king's burial cloth moved. Queen Adana dropped to the floor, covering her face with both hands. "I did it!" she screamed. "I did it! Stop talking to me!" The other wives froze. The voice thundered again. "Confess!" And the truth burst out of her like a dam breaking. "I killed him," she wailed. "I poisoned his food. It was me." Queen Kemdilim gasped, choking on her own sob as her heart shattered. Adana continued, sobbing uncontrollably. "He wanted to marry a fourth wife, a small girl, a child he claimed the oracle gave a sign about. I could not allow it." Her voice was hysterical. "So I went to a native doctor. He gave me a charm, a poison, and another charm to hide me from the spirits. I waited for the right time." Her voice broke as she rocked back and forth in agony. "When Kemdilim's baby cried, she left the pot of yam porridge to go inside. That was when I poured the poison into the food." Queen Uzioma screamed and covered her mouth.
Queen Adana clawed at her own skin, sobbing. "He ate it and died. I cried louder than everyone because I thought they would suspect me. I even blamed her." She pointed blindly toward Nkemdilim. "I blamed the one whose food I poisoned. I cursed her. I accused her. I almost let her suffer for my sin." The room fell silent. Then the burial cloth rustled again, and Queen Adana collapsed flat on the floor, wailing, "Forgive me, Biko, forgive me. I did it. I killed him." Outside the chamber, the villagers had begun pounding on the door. They heard the screams, the confession, the echoes of fear. The chief priest's voice thundered from outside, "Open the door!" The guards pulled the clay entrance apart, and Queen Adana exploded out of the room, running into the courtyard, her hair loose, her wrapper half torn, her face streaked with tears and madness. "I did it! I killed the king! I killed him!" Gasps rose like a wave. Children cried. Elders fell to their knees. Queen Nkemdilim and Queen Ozioma stumbled out shaking, their faces pale from fear and shock. Queen Adana fell at the feet of the chief priest, clutching his legs. "Save me," she sobbed. "The king's spirit is after me. He spoke to me. He followed me. He sees me." Mirioka stepped back as though touched by fire. "You were not speaking to the dead," he said coldly. "You were speaking to your own conscience. The guilt inside you slaughtered your sleep, your peace, your mind.
The gods only lifted the veil so the world could hear it. The courtyard fell silent. The truth had finally come out, and Umualo would never be the same again. Silence swept through the palace courtyard as Queen Adana knelt before the chief priest, trembling. Torches flickered. The moon brightened. The ancestors watched. "You have confessed before the living and the dead," the chief priest Moroka declared. "Now Umualo shall judge you." Queen Nkendilim stood among the villagers, her heart heavy. Her husband had been poisoned. Her name smeared. Yet she had remained silent, trusting the gods. Prince Obina stepped forward, anger tightening his voice. "She killed our father. She blamed our mother. She tore our home apart. Justice must be done." The elders nodded gravely. "In our land," one said, "poison is an abomination. The earth demands cleansing." Queen Adana collapsed into the dust, weeping. "I was afraid. I was jealous. Please spare me." But the people of Umualo turned away. Her pleas were too late. The chief priest raised his staff. "By the laws of our ancestors, your fate will be decided by the ritual of the forsaken. The earth you defiled will speak." Guards dragged her toward the sacred grove, her screams fading into the night. At dawn, elders and spiritual women cleansed the palace. Sacred leaves burned and white chalk marked the walls. Peace slowly returned. Queen Nkem and Queen Ozioma underwent the cleansing of innocence. Tears of relief filled their eyes. The truth had finally come to light. The chief priest faced the king's children. "Stand strong. Your father's spirit walks with you. Guard this kingdom from envy and deceit." Prince Obina bowed. "We will honor him." The kingdom's healing. In the moon cycle that followed, the land healed. Drums rose at sunset again. Market women sang. Children laughed through the streets. Queen Nkem resumed her duties with quiet strength. Queen Ozioma guided the younger ones gently. And the king's name became a story told around every evening fire. Beware the jealousy that wears a smile, for even love can be poisoned by envy.
Please do not forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comment section.